Cole Clark is absolutely 100% entirely, completely different to every single acoustic guitar you've got on the shelf. The reason I say that is because they are constructed differently using different timbers and have a completely unique pickup system, which we genuinely believe to be the most natural sounding in the world and the most dynamic. Starting with construction very quickly, because I know you're busy guys, and I appreciate your time. Steel string guitar built in the traditional method is to build the box, then attach a neck. There's a variety of ways to attach that neck, but ultimately it's two parts. The Cole Clark is built with a Spanish heel, which some people are and some people aren't familiar with. It's basically the traditional Spanish way of making a classical guitar, which is to lay down the face and attach the neck, and then actually slot the sides and the back into that neck. It's an entirely different character. Not better, not worse, just a different character. It's a tighter strum, it's a stronger core, which is partly the reason we use it. The other reason we use it is because of our pickup system, which I'll get to shortly. We also have internally carved tops and backs. So while it might feel very, very thick around the sound hole, it's actually quite thin around here, quite thin around here. So each piece of timber is individually internally carved. We have a dovetail joint at the headstock, simply because if you build this from a straight grain and tilt that grain, you notoriously have issues snapping headstocks off. With this, you've got a straight grain out of the neck and a straight grain out of the headstock. You simply join them together with a nice strong dovetail. And if you do happen to have a break, it will break right around that joint, so you can just simply put a new headstock on. So the integral heel makes it a different characteristic in a strum to any other guitar without a Spanish heel. Some people are unfamiliar with it, and when they first hear it, it may be a little strange to their ears. I'm very used to it these days, so but what I find is it's actually better for our pickup system. The pickup is our own. We make it in Melbourne, and it's based around a pickup, the PA system idea. Okay, when you play a gig, you've got subwoofers, speakers, and horns. You're not going to take your guitar and plug it into the back of one of those speakers and expect the full dynamic range of your performance to become clear. Yet, as you probably well know, most guitar pickups, that's what they're doing. They have one element trying to hear the full range, and the result is the piezo sound, which is a sound, and sometimes it's quite a nice sound, but it's definitely not representative of the instrument that you purchased. An acoustic guitar, when it's plugged in, should sound like that, but louder. Or whichever guitar you have, but louder. You want to amplify the timbre, and the piezo just doesn't cut it. So, adding microphones in guitars has been all the rage as well, but if you put a microphone in a guitar at full range, it's a box and a microphone. It's going to feed back at some point, and you'll be fraught with all sorts of trouble on stage with it. And more often than not, you get on stage with the setting you had at home through your PA at home, and you ultimately have to take that microphone out anyway because you start to feed. So the way we eliminate that is by having three separate elements like a PA system that can only hear frequencies that they're best equipped to handle, okay? Much like a PA system with crossovers, okay? So first, 6 loaded piezos, one for each string, so you have a balanced sound. That's the way they were invented for Ovation years ago. It's as good as a piezo gets because it's not a strip, but that's only going to hear the bottom end, okay? We have what's called a direct input drum sensor, and the DID is the Cole Clark invention that makes a Cole Clark what it is. That's going to hear everything over 350 hertz, and it's digitally shelved to be told that any frequency in its feedback zone, it simply has no idea that it exists and just sends it straight back to the piezo. Then a condenser microphone, and even though I said microphone plus guitar equals feedback, this condenser microphone can only hear very extreme high frequencies. It's just to roll off the ping, because there's two offensive parts to a piezo. It's the mid-range quack and the high-end ping. All right, so right now I've turned everything off. This is my personal guitar, so I apologise if the setup's a bit dodgy. But so first we'll start with just the pickup. under the saddle. So this is just, as you can hear, there's not a lot of noise here, and we've got the quack in that piezo. It's a good piezo, but it's still a piezo. Now, as I bring the bass sensor in, you can have it at 0, or you can bring it all the way to 350. The maximum crossover point is 350. But you can have it anywhere between those two. I'm going to turn it all the way because I'm here demonstrating. I've also just got the treble, mids and bass on flat because that seems, that's the way we demo it. As I bring it in, okay, now the whole entire guitar becomes completely wired and you lose that piezo sound. So again, just piezo. And now with the bass. The next part is the condenser microphone. The condenser mic takes off all that extreme pinginess. I go back to the piezo and this is going to hurt a little bit. So those notes under the note that get particularly piercing in the ears, we roll that off with the microphone. Again, anything that could feed back on that microphone, which is anything below 2.15K, it simply doesn't know it exists. It sends it to the face sensor. Anything the face sensor would feed back on, it sends it down to the piezo. So when we microphone off, face off, there's that pinging sound we want to roll off. We just want to roll it. Alright, so we still have the attack without losing that punch. And with all three together, you end up with a more natural sounding acoustic pickup. The sounds like the instrument you bought, highly percussive. Questions at this point? Well, the other thing is that it has that kill switch. So as soon as it senses that you're moving the jack, it just switches the battery off, just for that moment. And that's where it is. You can hear the kill there, right there. All right. Timber-wise, we're using mostly indigenous Australian timber. So Bunya is the most common top. You've got a Bunya guitar over there. Bunya is streaky and white. It's 20% stronger than spruce, and it's about 60% of Coal Clark sales. Spruce is about 1%, because Bunya, we found, simply sounds better on our guitars. Maybe it's our construction, maybe it's our bracing, we don't know, but Bunya sounds more like spruce on our guitars than spruce does. Tasmanian blackwood, especially on the top, you've got this exact model here at the moment. This is for the hitters. This is extremely hard timber. This is usually used in back and sides. It's very similar to Koa in the Taylor range, I suppose. I think they use some Koa, and I think Martin used some Koa as well. It's very similar to Koa, harder again. So when trying to sell that particular guitar, that's for the hitters, but you've got to plug it in, because as you know, the more stiff the top, the less it's going to vibrate. Acoustically, the less is there. There's not a lot there. But because I'm a plug-in player, that didn't bother me. So if you've got a plug-in player, they should hear our pickup. And it's about the story. The story is what sells the guitars. But here we have a completely different option on the shelf. And it is entirely separate to most guitars. And that's kind of what I like about it. I saw you've got a spruce guitar over there. You've got a Tasmanian blackwood back and sides. The Tasmanian top, Tasmanian blackwood back and sides, that's for a hitter. So as long as they plug it in and you turn that face sensor on, there's nothing more percussive than one of these guitars. And that's why we have a lot of those, those guys. Yeah. That's really about it, guys, and I hope it helps sell through, because this is a really cool shop, and I really appreciate that, you know, we're a somewhat unknown brand here still, so I do appreciate the banner and that sort of thing. It's very cool.